Hello guys, welcome to next webinar by Futuregames with participation from CD Projekt. We are waiting for people to join, so let's give them a few seconds. Still people are joining. Oh, we have 100 people already. I have a big ask to our audience. If you are able to turn on your camera, we will really appreciate it. It's really nicer to talk to people, faces, and observe your reactions than just black squares. So, anyone? Please, if not for us, do it for Maria Mazur. Okay. I'm sorry, some comments in the chat says its video is stopped by the host. I don't quite understand this comment because we are recording. And we are recording because some of you are not able to be present here today. So we will be sending over recording from this webinar. Guys, please, anyone who could please turn on their camera and be here with us.
I'm afraid you need to change the permissions of the chat room. Yeah, in the same case I did have like 15 minutes ago.
Sure. It's good to have a wingman here. Now it's done. Hello, Berkan. Hello, Gary. Hello, Aryan. Sorry, guys, for keeping you waiting. I lost faith in humanity for a moment, and it was my mistake. Okay, without any further ado, welcome today. Radek Smyk, our mentor in game design, will be the host, and he will be guiding you through communication in game design. And we have our special guest from CD PROJEKT RED, Maria Mazur, quest designer. So I'm very happy that we managed to assemble another webinar together with our strategic partner, CD PROJEKT. And probably many of you has already attended our webinars, so you know that I'm obliged to do the obligatory part, meaning introduction and saying a few words about our school. So let me share. Do you see my screen? Visible? Okay. So guys, we are Futuregames Warsaw, game dev school that's originated in Sweden. We started 20 years ago in Sweden. Right now in Warsaw, it's our first year. And this is first school outside of the Scandinavian ecosystem. In Sweden, we have 6 schools: Stockholm, Göteborg, Umeå, Malmö, Karlstad, and Boden. And what's kind of special about Futuregames, at least in Sweden, it's that we have 96% employability factor, meaning our alumni get the job. And this is the whole point with the school, is to land you a job, hopefully the job of your dreams. But so we are actively advocating for our students. And saying about getting a job, there are different scenarios. The most spectacular case is with Hazelight, a company created under the guidance from Josef Fares, but basically created by our alumni. So we have a very good and organic bond with Swedish game dev industry, here cooperating with the whole ecosystem, basically DICE, Paradox, Ubisoft, Hazelight, Starbreeze as well. These are companies which support school, take our interns, share their experts with us, and we are like a one big family there. And our goal for Warsaw is to recreate the same history in Poland. Other way our students get to the market is by them creating their own companies. We have one success story which really nice illustrates this. A team of students created a game during their game project in school. The game is called How Fish is Made. It was nothing special for them until Hideo Kojima played this game and tweeted about it, and they noticed 85,000 downloads on Steam. And right now they created their own company around it, specializes in horror games, and it's called Wrong Organ. So there are different scenarios for our students to leave the school and enter the game dev industry. Each student is a different story, and we keep this approach all the time, and we try to, during this 2.5 years of the course, define what students want, where is their goal, where is their focus, and help them achieve these goals. So if you consider joining us, you may expect the same kind of treatment and approach from our side. As I'm the head of Futuregames in Warsaw, let me focus on my students who joined us last September. Let me tell you the story quickly of the past 6 months. No, it's more. It's 9 months, over 9 months of Achilles, Zuzanna, Ksenia, Bahadir, Merkan, Mateusz, Stephanie, and Bartu. So what we achieved here in Warsaw is, first of all, they relocated. It was a big deal for some people, especially if you come from Mexico or Turkey or Portugal or Lebanon. It's an effort to be made. School is located in CD PROJEKT premises, in a CD PROJEKT headquarters in Warsaw on Jagiellońska Street. And we have 40 students here on site from really different nationalities on 3 courses: game artist, game designer, game programmer. Each of these courses are 2.5 years, and they are on site. So basically Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. It's at least at the beginning time. At the beginning, you have to reserve for the courses. From this September, we will also attach a course game producer for more advanced people with some background in project management, and you are also welcome to join this course. This journey was a very intensive learning curve for everyone, and for me as well. You know, we had a really nice gang here on site. We started with socializing, creating board games, card games. So this was the first project, creating a board game, analyzing existing board games and card games. Very quickly, we started to get visits from industry specialists, experts from different companies, from AAA, AA to indie studios. So basically, we have on a weekly basis somebody here coming over and giving a lecture to the students, besides the regular program. We are also very into taking our students out there and joining events, industry events. Here are some pictures from the Game Industry Conference in Poznań, where 20 of our students went with us, and we were noticed by HR departments. We went there with the structure, with the goal of bringing a lot of knowledge back to school, and it all worked well. It was kind of formative experience for this first cohort. As I said, it's a vivid environment. People come over to school. We take care of having like constant being in touch with the industry, networking, and helping our students to build their personal brand. The highlight of this course is also 4 games created during 2.5 years. It works like this, that we have 4 periods when we basically turn into indie game dev studio, and this is 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 7 weeks, and 9 weeks. 2 first games are being created in Unity, 2 next in Unreal 5. And we team up students in groups 12 to 14 people of different specializations, so artists, designers, programmers, QAs, very often also from Sweden. These teams are cross-site, and we give them topic, theme, and tools, and ask them to create games. And it works really well because you learn not only hard skills, but you apply what you have learned into the team, into the team experience, and basically you experience in a safe environment how it is to work in the studio. Each of these periods and each of these game projects end with the jury day, when we invite experts from the industry to become jurors and judge and give feedback to the games. Right now, we have finished the 3rd game project, 7 weeks in Unreal 5. 8 games have been created. and students are really happy about them. I will send you a link in this chat to our each profile so you can play these games for free and check them out. So we basically produce 50 games a year. All of them are free to play on our each website. We are also constantly traveling to the game dev events. Here are some pictures from Digital Dragons, where we met with Larian, with Activision. So it's all about, here you can see CDPR crew supporting us and having picture with us. We invite people from high schools to test the schools so that the experience of creating the game and getting the feedback is real for you. How we managed to also achieve this high employability factor is we have advisory board where representatives of the game dev studios advise us what should we teach, how should we tweak our curriculum so that it's always up to date. But the hidden agenda, please, Maria, don't pass it to your colleagues, but the hidden agenda of these meetings on advisory board is to soften their hearts, to show them how school works, to make connections with students and make it personal. I mean, make relationship with school personal so that the studios open up for internships for our students. And internship is crucial for landing the job. It's 30 weeks, which we organize, we advocate for students, we look for the openings on the market, and we basically bring you to the internship with, of course, cooperation with the students, but very mostly these internships end up with employment. CD Projekt is our strategic partner from the very beginning. What it means in practice is that we cut prices of these courses almost by half. So in Sweden, it's 23,000 euro, which you would have to pay as international student. In Poland, the price is still relatively low. It's 12,900 euro for the whole 2.5 years. There will be up to 6 scholarships granted by CD Projekt to the best performing students after 1 year. We have experts from CDPR. Sorry, I got some requests. I have to deny them all because we are doing the recording ourselves. So we have experts from CDPR on weekly, bi-weekly basis, and you will have a possibility to talk to Maria Mazur thanks to this strategic partnership as well. Internship in CDPR is somewhere on the horizon. We don't have the numbers yet, but it will be possible. Yes, we have 75 students already enrolled for the next cohort starting this September. So it means we still have places and you can apply. School is located in CD Projekt headquarters in Praga. This is district in northeast Warsaw. Here's the second floor of this building is where we are relocating right now due to increasing number of students. So we have 15% spots still left. So if you want to join us, you are welcome. Visa, it's frequently asked questions. Visa, yes, we help with visa process, but by issuing documents and assisting you, but generally to run this process, it's on you. Accommodations, similar situation. We will give you useful links and access to Discord group for other students where you can exchange experience and find roommates. At the end of this course, you will not get academic degree. You will get Futuregames diploma. But this is what is desired by the HR departments, as far as I'm aware, talking to the companies in Poland. You apply simply by sending portfolio, CV, and cover letter to this email, join AlphaCrowd Futuregames SE. And guys, and now we have 10 seconds to invite me on LinkedIn. If you want to be in touch, you can scan QR code or just type Piotr Matecki on LinkedIn, and I will be glad to answer any questions you might have after this presentation. Okay, and thank you for listening to me. And now I leave the stage to Radek and Maria. So now let's go to the maybe more interesting content for all of you. And we will have a fair share of time for QA from the audience at the end. So please save your questions for the last part of our meeting. Radek, are you ready? It's your
Hopefully, I hope so.
Okay. So Mike is yours.
I'm pretty certain. We will see how it goes, but we will see. Just give me a moment. I will switch to the presentation. Can you see the presentation correctly?
Yes.
That's lovely. So hello to everybody, and hello to Maria, who is our special guest today.
Hey guys.
We will be talking about communication in game design. This is a very broad topic, but the general thing about game design as a line of work is that as a designer, you need to be able to convince other people that your ideas are worth producing. You have to articulate them clearly, and as a designer, you will be cooperating with people of various languages. So they will have very different sensibilities. You will have to communicate both with artists who think visually. You will be communicating with programmers who have a different way of thinking. Quite often, it's like systematically driven. And as a designer, you need to learn how to talk to everybody and how to frame your ideas in a way that they will be understandable and executable in a work environment. So in this talk, we'll cover design practices and processes that Maria and we worked them out during our practice as designers, and how those generally connect to other departments in game dev. We will talk about where the designer sits in the process. So what parts of the game designer, for example, starts, like what processes do we start, and when and how we connect other departments into the workflows to ensure that the ideas are executed properly. We'll discuss a little bit about how those processes vary between AAA and indie. Maria works at CD PROJEKT and is involved with huge, absolutely huge production of the Cyberpunk, which I guess all of you know that it was many years of development, and it was one of the biggest undertakings in game development history. Personally, I am involved in the games that are much smaller. I work with smaller teams, so my practice differs. And for you, I think it will be useful to see what exactly is the difference in the designer's work in those two different environments. And we'll talk about how you can improve your design practice. So basically your solo work through efficient communication with your colleagues and peers, both in design and in other areas of game development. There is also a set of things that we will not cover, which is like very detailed design practices. So like what Maria exactly does to develop a great quest, or what exactly I do to develop my stuff. We'll have some room for those in the Q&A session, but generally we'll keep this high level in terms of content during the presentation. We will not be discussing a lot of details of Cyberpunk development. Maria is open to questions about those, but as a rule of thumb, please be aware that some of those details can be under various non-disclosure agreements, and as we are here to share the knowledge, but we are not here to share the trade secrets, and please be respectful of that. And we will not also discuss how to get a job in the industry. This is generally the role of the Futuregames, to actually bring you on board, to offer you courses on that one hand, but also like just today is not today. Maybe we'll cover that in the future. So a brief introduction. Maria, could you talk a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I mean, hey guys. So yeah, I am a co-designer at CD PROJEKT RED. It is my 7th year here. And I actually started out in QA. So that's I guess, an interesting but also pretty usual path into design. Yeah, and I have indeed hosted one of the presentations at Futuregames, so perhaps some of you guys have already met me. And I see that you mentioned Thronebreaker. That is lovely because it is my favorite game. If you haven't played Thronebreaker, you have to play Thronebreaker. Please do. It is a great game. If you enjoyed The Witcher for its storytelling, you are going to love Thronebreaker. And you can skip the card bits. So, you know, if you don't like card games, it's fine. It's a great game with a great story. Yeah, and I am not sure how much else, like, what else would you guys like to know about me? So maybe, I don't know, questions, perhaps?
I guess we will have time for those later on.
Yeah.
But absolutely, thank you for that. I enjoyed Thronebreaker a lot. It came out quite some time ago, but it was great, absolutely.
Everyone knows it, so if you haven't played it, play it. It's great.
Certainly you should, absolutely. So on my side, really quickly, I do systems design at Far From Home, which is an indie company in Wrocław, roughly 30 people over on board. I do economy, progression, and mechanics for Forever Skies, which is an open world survival game. It released into early access in June last year, and we are approaching the full release somewhere along the end of the current year. I do game design mentoring at Futuregames Warsaw on a regular basis, and previously I held multiple design positions in a few indie studios, and I started way back in 2012 as a QA in an outsourcing company, actually. So similarly to Maria, my way into design also was through quality and testing, basically. So let's move on into the real deal. Generally, we do have like 3 main departments that cooperate with design, which is artists, programming, and quality assurance. In the case of Maria, it's also writing quite often. So we'll also touch a little bit upon that. So the order of those is like the order of mentioning is actually quite random. So hopefully nobody's going to be offended. I started with artists because it starts with A. So Maria, just as a warm-up, how often do you work with artists in your practice as a quest designer, and what's your general overview on that?
I mean, all day, every day. That's just part of our life, I guess. No, it's perfectly normal. Actually, you mentioned writers. I feel like we can safely include them in the artist group. In fact, yeah. So definitely working with artists is part of my everyday experience, and it is honestly one of the greatest things about working in game dev for me. Just, you know, experiencing these very talented people who are working in a completely different area than me, but together we can, you know, I guess connect on a creative level and make something great together. It's awesome. I'm just glad that this is part of our life, because, you know, I guess not many people that I grew up with or learned the ropes of life with get to experience artists in everyday life in their careers. So yeah, it's great. Love it.
Absolutely, I agree about the being lucky part, especially when you have the ability to surround yourself with very talented people. I wanted to maybe ask an unusual question. Should a designer, in your opinion, learn some kind of art education? So either like creative writing and the rules of that, or maybe script writing, this type of stuff, or on the other hand, some type of like visual understanding of visual arts. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so for me, should, no. Can, obviously. Like I don't feel like it's a necessary skill or area to develop if you are a quest designer. Well, quest or narrative. You know, for me, this role is so interesting because it can like adjust yourself. Well, sorry. The role can adjust itself to the kind of person you are, right? So you can be like, you can always utilize your talents in shaping the role of a quest or narrative designer to your specific profile. So yeah, for some people, I feel like their expertise in art can be very useful. For others, they will realize that themselves in some other way. You know, you can be very technically savvy. That's also a great skill to utilize in building yourself up as a quest designer. So yeah, I would say if you are like drawn in that direction, then definitely it is going to be very helpful. Either in cooperating with artists and like sharing a common language with them in a way, but also you might even find some areas where you will be able to work on something more artistic yourself. Especially, you know, I'm assuming that on smaller projects, it is more common that you will be filling in different roles at the same time, like parallel, you know, areas to cover. So I feel like, yeah, art education is for sure great, but I don't feel like it is completely necessary to function well as a designer.
Right. You mentioned something that piqued my interest and is actually kind of connected to the next question. So you mentioned that like through, let's say, art education or like just learning about art, you can develop something that you call an art language that allows you to communicate with the artists. So could you expand a little bit about it? So if you did, how did you learn this type of language and how you utilize this in your quest design, or maybe your position in the process doesn't really involve that? How does it look on your side?
Yeah, so in CDPR, we have this great like program, let's say, of these workshops where we share our knowledge between different departments. So I guess that's for us one of the greatest ways to quickly learn how different areas think about their work in our, well, common product, right? So I feel like, you know, understanding certain aspects of, let's say, building a cohesive story where you know that you have like certain parts that normally will come together and create a cohesive narrative, right? Once you understand that, that's how our writers are thinking about their stories. Then when I'm, let's say, building a quest, or even not a quest, let's try to change my role and say that I am a gameplay designer, right? If I will understand why my writer needs to like create their story from certain elements, I will then understand why they need me to create a certain mechanic or feature that is going to be utilized in their story. If you, I'm not sure if I made it clear enough. My point is that, yeah, I guess the best way to learn how a certain area thinks about their process is to just talk to them and find out.
Absolutely. Like, for me, it was clear. Maybe trying to simplify this a little bit for like everybody's listening, and like sharing also a little bit of my experience. As Maria said, talking to other departments is probably the best way to like learn how to speak with them, but it also includes like certain mindset, I would say, like being open to those different languages. And I've seen some designers struggling with that, being so like focused on design and like the rules of design, that they try to basically like bend other disciplines into the design mold, let's say. And this is something that's quite often very dangerous for the game in itself. As far as I understand, Maria, your process starts with writing. It starts with the narrative and the story that you're trying to convey in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like it's also, for me, it was very helpful to see one of our internal workshops about visual language. It was mainly dedicated to the environmental art team, but well, we were all welcome to join. And it was very interesting because, they explained how they have this vision that they then translate to the location, to the specific like elements of the location where eventually my quest is going to take place, for instance. For me, it wouldn't feel that significant for let's say, move one like blue element from one area in the room to the other. But then they showed us how they're put in certain places with their very specific intent, and how our like things that for me would seem insignificant are actually affecting the overall experience. So it is very useful to like keep in mind that I wouldn't want someone from a different discipline like messing with my logical structure of the adventure, and because I am putting those blocks, let's say, in a specific order for a reason. And similarly, they have their own rules that make it possible to create the best experience possible.
And absolutely. I think this is widely different in indie games, where those lines are quite often more blurred because like people have a lot of other specialties, let's say. I was doing level design for a long time, and those like highlighting rules, let's say, like putting blue objects in certain places, or like the direction of lightning, was something that my level artists really tried to put into me, because it basically sped up their work. If I knew that, I could make the blockouts that basically follow those rules, so they don't have to redo it afterwards. So like this two-way communication really can speed up the whole deal, basically. And as we actually touched upon, let's say, like level design, blockouting, and quest design in particular, could you tell a little bit more how you approach this like first phase of realizing your quest design? How does it look on your site, and when you kind of hand it off to other people?
Yeah, okay, so I guess the first steps are actually all on paper, and well, with the first pitch, you're mostly by yourself. Let's say, well, that depends, really, because you can obviously cooperate with other people, especially with writers in our process, where the role of a quest designer, narrative designer, and writer is those are separate, but very much closely binded. Yeah, so, but let's say that I have an idea for a quest. I'm very passionate about some story that I would like to tell. So the first step is to just write it all on paper. And if it gets accepted, then you iterate on it with the support of a writer. It can go the other way around, actually, because it can be the writer coming up with the pitch, and then they are going to approach you with this idea, hey, let's make a quest together. But here you mentioned blockout, and that is already the point where we are going to move into implementation, and that is when I would approach one of my favorite level designers and say, hey, let's build a level to support this story that we are going to tell. So yeah, the first step in implementing would be probably approaching one of our level designers and explaining the vision and the needs from our side, from the story side, let's say.
All right. So you're not involved in implementation at all. So like no dialogue systems, like triggers, stuff like that.
Wait, could you repeat, please?
So are you involved in hands-on implementation of your quests at any point? Yeah.
Oh, obviously, that's what I do actually. Yeah. So when I say that, I would approach the level designer about level design alone, like not actually creating the quest in engine. No. I am the one like implementing the logic and the whole structure of the story. However, normally the blockouts are done by level designers on the level. But actually, I'm currently working on a prototype where I don't have a level designer involved in this process. And yeah, so I'm building the blockout myself, but in our company, normally it is split between the disciplines.
I see. So you're basically crossing over into another discipline.
Yep.
That sounds really nice. Absolutely. Do you have like anything that you would like to add about the general working with writers, artists, level designers on your site? Any like golden sentences for our audience, basically, stuff to remember?
Yeah, I would say that it is very important to make sure that you have built a pleasant environment on a human level. Like for me, it is very useful to have friends on the other side of those conversations. In a way, I feel like specifically quest design, apart from obviously me wanting to show off my talent and my expertise, I feel like we probably all want to do that in our work. But quest designers have this additional role of functioning kind of like, let's say, a stage for other people's talents, right? So, and we also, we are the reason why this content that we are creating together is a game and not something else. So our concept artists, let's say, can paint beautiful pictures, and that stands on its own, right? Our writers can create great stories, and it could be a book or a screenplay just as well. Then quest designers come in, and they are supposed to make sure that it is going to be a game experience for the player, right? So it's kind of like, I feel like we are the connection between different sorts of art and players. Yeah, and it is, I guess, when you have so many talented people who all have their egos, just as we all have them, and everyone wants to create the best content they possibly can. You are the person, or the, I guess, means to their success, right? And I feel like that is a very, it's kind of an honor, actually, to be the person who delivers someone else's art to a broader audience. So it's a great role. However, I feel like I didn't actually answer the last question because it was about blockout, where it ends and where level art starts. So in CDPR, I'd say it's all art, obviously, but yeah, well, there is a level designer who does the blockout, and then there is a level artist who comes in and starts working on it. So like, it is pretty clear, like, separated different parts of the process.
Right, thank you, and thank you for highlighting the design's role, I guess, as being this connection between other departments. Like, this is sometimes a blessing and sometimes a curse, that the work of a good designer stays invisible. Like, all of the other people have those, like, very tangible elements, the good writing that you mentioned, the great visuals, and at the end of the day, the gameplay happens in a game, and it's, like, really hard to pinpoint what it actually is. It can be the secret sauce to a great game, but it also can absolutely destroy the work of other people. The good art, great sounds, great animations, and it's very important to be aware of the responsibility of the designer to showcase other people's work in a great manner. Thanks. I think we can move into a little bit more technical sides of things, the programmers. There is this stereotype that they also have their separate language, because they do, quite usually. I've worked with various, let's say, types of programmers. Many of them were gameplay programmers who understand designers really well. Some of them were dealing with systems and, like, deep down technical programming of graphic cards, graphic features, tech cards, people with widely varying specializations, basically. each of them having their own technical language, their own concepts. And I would love to know how, from your position as a quest designer, does working with programmers look like in general?
It's great. It honestly is. Like, you know, my role connects these two areas. So the artistic and the more analytical, technical, let's say. So for me, communicating with people who have this like very clear, logical way of thinking and analyzing content, that is great. It's so much easier if we like all have a clear-cut way of thinking about the game actually. Yeah, I am working with programmers a lot, especially when it comes to actually bug fixing, because it's like. Even back in QA, it was very useful for me to just ask them why certain things work in a certain way. And when you get to hear about it in, let's say, this simple language, in just a conversation, like somewhere in our kitchen at work, I feel like it helps you then kind of anticipate issues that might come up with your content, with your implementation. So yeah, it's great.
It's kind of tempting for me to ask this, but maybe I will leave this for later. But if you, I will do it right now. If you had to pick that you would eternally work with artists or programmers, who would you pick?
That is impossible because literally you are in between both areas. That is like why the quest design discipline is awesome for me, because you get to experience both sides and and you kind of connect them to create a game. So it's not a choice. It's a privilege to be able to work with both, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that I will throw you a curveball, but absolutely no chance to do that.
Oh.
So could you tell us a little bit more how you kickstart your processes with the programmers? So let's say you do have a feature in mind, or like a specific need for your quest line that is not covered in engine at this point, or you could expand some features and make them better, basically. How do you work with that, basically?
Yeah, so I feel like you have actually touched upon something important. Well, obviously throughout this whole presentation, but in this case, the part where you mentioned improving existing solutions. I feel like it is very useful when you are going to need a feature to explain on an existing solution why that is not enough, or what would need to be changed about it in order to make it fit your specific needs. So I would say it is useful to first do this step on your own when you are searching for the easiest, the fastest way to solve your problem with the tools you already have, and then to talk to someone who can help you out with creating a different tool, like to show them, okay, I could do this with that feature, but it wouldn't be like cool enough or fun enough or easy to work with because of this and that, right? So yeah, for me, showing them, on a specific example, that is very helpful. But I also feel like perhaps it's not always clear that it is useful to talk to people from different disciplines, for instance, programmers, about your content, as if you were talking to someone who, well, isn't obviously familiar with your design process, perhaps even not necessarily familiar with how games are created, because it's not a given that everyone from your team is going to fully understand why you need certain things if they have never been on that side of design. For me, it's very helpful because I talk to my parents a lot about the process of creating games. They are actually gamers, so that's easier because they at least have an understanding of the end product. But yeah, it helps me to talk about my work in a way that is understandable to people who aren't in the same position as me. And in this case, I feel like just explaining why I need this feature to be like a huge experience in this moment of my quest, due to, let's say, some narrative connections. That's helpful because then they know why I need a feature that is going to be very cool, right?
Absolutely. So, as I understand, your work with programmers, you do work a lot with tools. So, I'm guessing they are making tools for you to generate contents.
Yes.
In many ways. Do you have like any pointers on basically how to design those tools? Like maybe you can share some use cases with us if this is possible. But generally, what are your expectations of your tools as a designer, and how do you approach building those?
I would say that it is very important to look for balance in terms of how uncomfortable the solution is. And what I mean is that at times there are some nuisances that are better to just kind of swallow and say, okay, it's a bit of a pain, but it's not risky. It is not a huge pain in the ass that's stopping you from being efficient. I'd say there is a level of discomfort where I would say don't go poking people about small stuff. But if there are some things that just consume too much of your time, or honestly, I'd say it's better to first approach the tool programmer with a question of, hey, how does that work? Like, why is that flag there and not like, why is that drop down with these contents? How, like, to just try to fill out how difficult would it be to potentially change some thing that is bothering you. So again, I would say just talking to people is very useful. Yeah, talking on a level of could you explain how complex that is, and not just throwing Jiras at people with like, do it because I want it. I'd say, yeah, explaining why certain aspects of the tool are bothering you in your everyday work that is that's well, I have found it very useful to just explain my work to people and then ask them, hey, would it be possible to do something about it?
So basically, you're turning programmers into designers. They respond. They have to figure out how to respond to your needs in a feasible manner. This sounds nice. I think they also could sometimes understand us a little bit better and also build those bridges, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. And it is useful for the future as well. If you go through 1 to 10 of those conversations, in the next step, I can say from my personal experience, in the next case where we were improving certain tools, I was already involved in the process from the beginning because they knew that our cooperation is going to ensure that the first iterations of the tool are going to be useful for me. Because, well, obviously they are not working in my area. They have some assumptions about functionalities, but yeah, in the end, the designer knows what is going to be easiest for them, let's say. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've built up a set of my own tools. I've got the comfort of working in Unreal, which is very extendable. Also on the designer side, so you can automate a lot of stuff. You can basically, if you dig down a little bit better into it, you can build your own tools. But I also have this problem that from time to time I design them wrongly, and I would love to have some programmers just to get a little bit of help with both the implementation and just to, let's say, bounce some ideas of other people. But indie is always do-it-yourself philosophy, which I personally like a lot. But approaching the end of the programmer section, kind of similar to the previous question about art/writing and the blockouts. When you're designing a feature, I guess this might be not that applicable to quest design, I would say.
Oh.
We'll see. But do you have a point where you basically hand off your stuff for polish? Or is this like a situation where you start with fast prototyping of the quest implementation on your own and carry this all into the production to the very end of it?
Yeah, so as a quest designer, at least at CDPR, you don't really hand off stuff. You are basically there from day one to like the final patch with bug fixes. But yeah, about prototypes, we actually are involved in them. And I'd say the biggest use for prototypes from my perspective, in my role, is for pitching. Whether it is about a specific quest design approach or a feature that would potentially involve different disciplines, for instance, programmers or gameplay designers. Yeah, there is, if you are convinced that something is going to be useful and fun in your quest, and it is not actually your job technically to do it, it is perfectly fine and useful to kind of create a draft, a prototype that is going to help other people understand what is going on in your head and how you imagine it's going to play out in the actual game. So yeah, that's definitely a part of, well, that depends on the person, I guess, on the quest designer. Some people are not actually that's invested in trying to prototype a solution. They're more they would rather just say, okay, I need that, but I don't want to be involved in designing it. Other people are more interested in actually helping to shape up the solution. So yeah, different people, different approaches, but for me, I feel like yeah, just work on it for the exact amount of time that is needed for it to speak to other people, right? And then hand it off if they accept it.
Yeah, this time is so tiny, so team specific though. It's very different to pitch to other designers, to artists, or to management. Let's say. I'm guessing this is also a very different. These are all very different scenarios for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Although our management is usually like very much involved and aware of different areas of the game. So I'd say the difference in pitching to managers versus pitching to coworkers is just in the stakes of it all. but in terms of the language, I feel like it's usually like we have a common understanding of what's going on. So
absolutely great. And regarding the understanding, there is the last pillar of the game basically, and the communication. Maybe the one that's for some people is the hardest to understand. Why QA is probably the most important part of the whole puzzle.
But not for us, because we have our background in QA, so we know it's the most important one.
Yeah, it certainly helps. Some kind of focus on the end user experience that stays with the designers that started in QA. I think this is can be quite beneficial. Also helps a lot with just working with testers. So for me personally, I didn't have a lot of trouble with accepting that the QA is the designer's eyes. And when I talked to you previously, I think we also kind of agreed on that. Could you elaborate on how do you work with QA when you start to involve them into the process, and how you use QA as your eyes, basically?
Well, I mean, I would say first you should be your own eyes, definitely. Meaning, I hate it when designers or developers in general are not playing their own content. That's a pet peeve of mine. But yeah, for sure, QA involvement is crucial. In the center of my work, there's always our future player, and QA in a way does play that role in our development process, right? So yeah, for me, QA is crucial in every step of our journey. Even at the very beginning, when you are working on the narrative drafts, having a narrative QA by your side, just experiencing your for now just written content, that is very helpful. And in each following step, their involvement obviously grows, and yeah, it's very important to have a solid relationship with whatever like group of QAs you can have in your project, because as I said, we in CDPR we have different QA areas, let's say. So there are some that are more like generalists, but we have a separate a narrative QA team, we have a gameplay QA team, and yeah, as a designer, you will cooperate with people from different QA disciplines.
Right.
In different steps of creating the quest.
So you mentioned that you have a certain opinion on designers that do not play their own content. What do you think about this thing that, in my opinion, happens quite often? That's when you play this for the 5th, 10th, 20th time as you're trying to polish this. Sometimes I get this feeling that in my mind this starts to be disfigured, let's say. So like I really lose at some point the sanity that's needed to get out of my own experience and try to experience this as a fresh player. How do you deal with that personally?
Yeah, so for sure, that is where QA becomes like absolutely necessary. if you cannot experience your content in a way that is going to benefit you, then definitely you need more hands on deck. But actually, for me, playing with our team, like as a group, that was always very helpful. With our QA also involved. You know, when we were working on one of the demos for Cyberpunk, I was actually the QA in our strike team that was working on the demo. Yeah, we had this ritual of weekly playthroughs, and like each week a different person would actually control the playthrough, but we were all watching and discussing it live. And yeah, it was great to see how different people played the game. However, I'd say bear in mind that the QA is the person actually trained and experienced in both playing and feedbacking your content. Meaning, I know that it can feel like everyone can do it, but yeah, from my experience, that is not actually the case. So it is good to kind of use your coworker as the future player who would play your quest, your game, but pay special attention to what your QA says, because that is their expertise.
Absolutely. You actually transitioned really smoothly to the question that wasn't even on the board. So, as you mentioned, there are, let's say, different types of feedback coming from QA. So we've got the bug reports, so like the very technical side of it. This thing does not work as intended. We know that it should work like that, but it doesn't, and so on. So like the pure quality assurance, let's say. But you're mentioning that you also have like various specializations in quality assurance, and I'm guessing that you're not really getting a lot of bug reports from some of them, but you're rather getting more or less structured feedback from the play sessions, from reading your ideas, and from implementations down the line. But it's more of a feedback type of stuff.
Yeah, so no, actually, I'm assuming that you mean that the narrative QA sounds like it would be mostly focused on.
For example, yeah.
But that's not actually the case. The narrative QA is connected to, well, obviously also feedback story-wise, but it is also the team kind of linked to quest design. So all the bugs related to my work are also reported mostly by narrative QA. Of course, not that many bugs, but yeah, they are definitely working with the Quest team mostly. And yeah, in our company, I'd say that the feedback versus bug ratio it should be pretty similar in each of the disciplines. So art QA will send in art bugs, but also feedback about the art, and similarly with gameplay and narrative.
Yeah, it's like doubling down on the feedback because for me personally, I got used to it, but I remember that it was a process to actually process the feedback as a designer emotionally. So to put the ego to the side a little bit, to learn how to listen, but also learn how to not always listen, but try to dig into the feedback to see what is the true underlying issue. Because over time, I learned that sometimes what you see on the surface just signals something that's buried deep down inside the design, which produces some types of like issues, but certainly is not the thing that it might seem to be.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
yeah.
When you read comments on Reddit or whatever, and you can see that, oh, someone didn't like that, or I hated that quest, you normally cannot ask why, right? You cannot dig into what was wrong with it. So definitely that is also helpful to just learn the thought process of the QA who gave you that feedback. And from the other side, obviously, as a QA, you learn how to feedback in the most efficient way. And for me, it was very helpful actually to first learn certain ways of communication with other developers, designers as a QA, and now I can utilize that in my everyday work. It is much easier to talk to people now that you know you have a certain skill set that well helps you avoid antagonizing people from the get-go. It is definitely useful. Yeah, so I'd say if you're trying to take in feedback from people, just bear in mind that normally they are not trying to hurt your feelings, and they are only trying to make sure that the game is excellent.
Absolutely. But I'm also sometimes looking at students of Futuregames. So to all of the people listening, try to start this process of getting feedback, used to feedback as early as possible, because sometimes it's a long time, and we are doing our best to also help you with that on the go, but it might be hard for some people.
It takes time. It takes time to get used to being judged. But
absolutely.
yeah, once you've gotten over kind of like your ego, let's say, it's just going to make your content better. Even if you have to reject the feedback, that also happens. If you're not going to implement it, at least learn why it was logged to you in the first place.
Yeah. We're slightly running out of time now, so we'll glance over the last question because we kind of already touched on it. Mm-hmm. So we will be closing the main part. We clocked in almost an hour, so thank you very much for that. Thank you for your answers to the questions and for telling us about your workshop, basically, and your design practice. It was really great to hear that.
Thank you.
We'll be opening up the Q&A. So
sorry to interrupt. It was a pleasure to listen to you guys exchanging, and I learn again and again and again during these webinars. So I'm very happy about this. And I have a feeling there are a lot of questions in the audience, so it's good that we secured a lot of time. So Radek, let's open this session, right, for the questions from the audience.
I think it would be best if you could handle the questions for now, or I actually have to stop my sharing for this.
Stop sharing. And I think the best way works best if you just raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask the questions. So I've seen there were a lot of questions wrote in the chat, but we prefer if you just ask them out loud. Lorenzo, I think you are first.
Morning, everybody hears me?
Hello, yes.
Hello. Thank you for the presentation. And I was wondering, as a quest designer, game designer yourself, what do you think personally, in your opinion, is the most challenging part of the work, both during pre-production and production in AAA games?
Yeah, so well, challenging. It's all fun. It's the best like job in the world. But I'd say in terms of difficulties like in everyday work, definitely the first steps are tough because the end product is so far away from you when you're working on AAAs that it can feel daunting just to have it that far in the future. And also, you are working on paper, you are working with designs that are going to be changed like over and over again. Some stuff is going to just like be thrown out the window because it doesn't fit the still changing, still taking shape, the concept of the game. So yeah, I'd say it's tough to motivate yourself at the very beginning, but it is also very exciting to kind of have the freedom to like develop or explore your ideas. So it's challenging but fun, and from the other side, the final touches on the product, that is also stressful because you can see the end line like right next to you, but fun because you're just about to see other people experience your content. I cannot tell you which part is the toughest.
If I might chime in, for me, it's exactly the opposite. So the first part is the best. The first year, 2 years of a project, when you have a lot of ideas to explore, you can try out new things. This is absolutely great. When it matures, it's also really nice. It takes shape and you can see the quality that the game will have at the end of it, if it's a great game, actually. But the last half of a year, the last year of like polishing this and fixing all of the small stuff, for me personally, this is the hard part. It's very satisfying at the end of it, but the finish line quite often just moves further and further away. And this might be tiresome in terms of how you handle stress, basically. And those like long runs, because you have to remember that games take a ton of time to develop. This can be 5 years, 8 years, very, very long time schedules.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Now, Tommy. You can unmute yourself. I changed this.
Hello, guys.
Hello, hi.
Hey, hey.
Yeah, thank you, Maria, for sharing. I'm curious about the technicality aspect of the game designer in CD Projekt, or like maybe specifically quest designer, I think. Like, uh, what is your involvement into the engine, or like, do you have to code it yourself, like a little bit, or like you just provide the team, the programmer, the design docs?
No, no, no. That is, you will have to do everything yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, as a quest designer at CD PR, you are supposed to, well, let's say, build the structure of the quest in engine. You are kind of using the building blocks provided by the programmer. But yeah, you have to script everything yourself.
I mean, like when you want to create a feature in your quest, like, okay, I want this to affect like as many NPC as possible, right? So you you just request it to programmer, right? You just I mean, you just request to programmer, and you don't have to code it yourself from the engine, right? So you just use it, the engine created from the programmer. Is that correct?
Yes, I feel like perhaps if we used a specific example, it would be easier to like. What's your feeling of? Let's say we have a an interaction in Cyberpunk. Yeah, our character approaches a different character and starts talking to them. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
in my project right now, I'm working with a programmer day to day. We are exactly sit side by side, and we are working on these enemy system, right? So there is like I want this to trigger something. I want this like have to this exactly parameter. So the programmer will provide me with the I'm sorry, I just provide the programmer the requirement, and then the programmer will create the system out the engine. So I just use it like what you said, the maybe the building block.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is that correct? Is that what you do in the CD project? Just use the building block created by the programmer.
Yeah, so
Yeah. I'm sorry if it's so confusing.
no, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine. Yeah, so let's say that
Maybe just tell me your day to day with the programmer. What's your day to day? If you found a problem, or if you want to implement a new feature uh, in your quest.
yeah, so let's take a feature then, like a specific
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
What would that be? Like what's on your mind?
I don't know. What usually be a new feature in the quest that you work on before?
Yeah, so let's there is
Take an example.
yeah. Okay. So, for instance, we have a in one of my quests, you unlock this new gameplay feature. It's kind of written into the story, but
Oh yeah.
you suddenly get to kill NPCs in a new way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would request the feature from our gameplay design team. So I would just say,
Okay.
hey, we need that. However, the actual triggering of that new feature, that's on
You
my
created, right? Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, okay.
So the
Okay, okay.
logical, like the logical structure of the experience, that's on me.
Okay.
However, if I need something new to happen, like not, you know, playing dialogue lines or displaying something somewhere, that's
Yeah.
already done. If I couldn't
Okay.
do it and I needed a new block to play it, then yeah, I would poke programmers and explain my needs.
Clear enough. So you just provide the program with the requirement, right? You just need ABC.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Okay.
yes.
I'm sorry, so confused. Thank you again, Maria, for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Yeah.
David,
Yeah, I've got questions regarding more communicating with the players. Like, how do you determine how much you should tell the player something diegetically, like NPC says, hey, you can do this, or non-diegetically, like UI prompt pops up, or just we don't say anything too loud. We just hint at certain things that players figure out on their own. Like, how do you strike the balance between that?
Yeah, so I am very biased because I have a very specific preference here. I prefer not telling the players anything if I can avoid it, right? I personally, I prefer experiences where the adventure is created in a way that introduces your player to the game in a natural, organic way. So I would say an NPC standing in front of me and telling me, you can click the button to do that. I personally don't like it, but yeah, it depends on the game. My approach is just very open and loose, let's say.
Right, thanks.
thank you, David. Jacob?
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you for the talk. It was very much appreciated. I had a question that I think is relevant to quest designers at CD PROJEKT, and it has to do with very early on when you're creating a quest, and you mentioned people's egos. What is a good way to coordinate very early on to make sure that everyone involved in the quest is kind of on the same page creatively, and they all have the same priority or vision and goal outside of like maybe a project-wide design vision, but specifically for like individual quests?
Yeah, so in CDPR, usually the quest designer functions kind of like the content owner, right? So it is your job to make sure that all the other disciplines are pulling in the same direction. So yeah, it's you have to find a way to communicate with people, like to both make sure that their voices are heard and that you are taking into consideration the necessities of their disciplines. But also, I would advise people to establish that your voice is crucial in driving the whole quest design process. Yeah, but it definitely helps if your coworkers know that you understand that they want to make the best location or the greatest scene, so that they have that trust in them, that you are going to showcase their talents in the best way possible. But at the same time, you know, the other disciplines are coming together so that your quest is created, not the other way around.
So it sounds like a quest designer is ultimately a leadership position in the company.
Well, I wouldn't say that publicly. No, but I think it's important even if we are not positioned
Sure.
vertically one above the other. I feel like it is important to have that ownership role somewhere established. If it's not, I feel like it's naturally the quest designer. If in your team it's for some reason someone else, that's also fine. Just there has to be a voice that's pulling everyone else in one specific direction.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. And now Day Two. Did I pronounce properly?
Hi, Maria.
Hey.
So, I would like to ask, as a quest designer, so how do you, or what do you have in mind in order to make the quest have a good progression without getting bored at a certain point of the quest? Because we create like a quest 1, quest 2, quest 3, and then until quest 4, it becomes like a repetitive Stanley. So probably you could share us how would you handle that in some of the progression?
Yeah, so here definitely your teammates can come into play because normally they serve as a source of inspiration to me. But yeah, I get what you're saying about creating multiple quests where you kind of fall into the same way of thinking and designing. Yeah, well, that is a whole different presentation, I guess, that we could do here. But the key thing I would say is finding a focal point of the story and building around that and making sure that that key part of your quest isn't repeated between the designs. So if there is one, let's say, a relationship between mother and son, right? And you are building a quest around that. If you make sure, if you're laser focused on showcasing that and exploring that, it's not going to repeat between designs as long as you're not repeating that that crucial element.
So you're suggesting we create a narrative first, and then we follow based on that narrative. Is that it?
Yes. For me,
okay.
it's more useful to first establish something narratively driving, and then build around that. Obviously, using some of our let's say principles or techniques for designing quests, like to make sure that they are rich, that they are non-linear in certain aspects. But as long as the story is interesting and highly engaging, I feel like you can skip certain technical aspects, let's say, as long as the story is driving you. And that's how you avoid being repetitive.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Thank you so much for your sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Datu. Arkil?
Hi, hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
Thank you. Hi, Maria. I just wanted to ask more grounded question for you. It's part for your day-to-day, but still, you mentioned the ability of quest designer to communicate certain requirements to programmers or QAs, so that all the eyes see similarly. So those, and you mentioned several methods that are more informal. I wanted to ask you, which formal methods would you typically use, especially if you are new to the company and are not in some familiar relationships. For example, like you are not you are not sitting next to the programmer, you just started, and you need to communicate those requirements still. And how do you structure them? And That's the first question. And second question is if you find similarities in your profession, whether, I don't know if you worked or not before in the software development as a separate, as a enterprise solutions, not for game designing, but for like business software, for example, and if you find any similarities that you could use in your process. If you have not, it's still okay, it's still answer,
Yeah,
but
so yeah,
yeah.
I'm afraid the second question is I don't know.
Okay. That's it. Then only first question.
Perfect. Yeah, so in CDPR we use Jira for requests, and I think we've had some attempts at creating like a more structured request forms, but all in all, I feel like I'm just listing all the things that come to my head that could be useful to the programmer. And as you've said, when you're starting and you don't, you haven't had a chance to establish a personal connection, I would say try to create those as soon as possible. Meaning, when your ticket lands on a programmer, reach out directly and try to just ask them, is there anything that I could clear up about the request? As for the request itself, I feel like it's always better to share more than less. So even if you would assume that something is obvious or you're repeating information, I'd say include it in your request. And here, actually, the experience from QA has been very helpful for me, just because you learn how to log your tickets, your bugs, your feedbacks in a way that is going to be consumed by your reader without just their heads blowing up. So I would say it's very important to learn how to be both descriptive and concise. And here I'm showcasing that, but by talking non-stop for ages, I'm very sorry. But yeah, I would say list all the things that come to your head, but make sure that it is still possible to consume.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries.
Thank you, Arkil. Ariane? Sorry.
Hey.
Ariane?
I don't know, muted, or I'm not sure.
Sorry, yeah, I had my mic muted. But thank you for your time. I really appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to ask some questions. I kind of have two questions, but I'll keep it to just one so other people have an opportunity as well. But my main question was kind of similar to another person's earlier, but it was like communicating with the player. Specifically more in like open world type of games. Recently I've been playing through Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and sometimes I run into the issue of not knowing where, like, in these type of games there's alternative paths that you can explore, but like as a player I kind of sometimes struggle to know, like, am I going on the main path right now that is progressing the story? And then, like, say you do end up going down that way and you get locked into like a cutscene or some kind of trigger that forces the player further into the like the actual progression of the game. It's kind of unfortunate, and then I have to like reload my save and be like, okay, so that was the main path. How do you kind of like tell the player or communicate with them like, hey, this is the side route or the alternative route, you can go this way, without like locking yourself out of some content per se?
Yeah, so it is very much like the way I personally approach my quest, but it is also something we are trying to do in general in CDPR by creating a sort of like a set of guidelines for quest designers. So this approach to, on one hand, creating those alternative paths, parallel ways of experiencing the quest, but without cutting off the other content. So you ask how to tell the player that they are following the path that is going to cut off other paths. I would say try to design your paths in a way that doesn't cut off other content. So yeah, whenever possible, I'm just trying to build my content so that it is clear that you can experience that specific beat in different ways. But you wouldn't feel like, perhaps it would encourage you to replay the quest and see the other path. But each of the paths for me should feel like, if I could have avoided cutting off content, I should try to do it. So yeah, but it is very important, like for me in Phantom Liberty, we've had to, in my quests, we were trying to build these experiences where you are not leading the player like by their hand, you are leaving them like an open sandboxy kind of experience. However, since it was not always the case in the rest of the game, like in base game especially, we were encountering this issue where it would have been fine to be this open if the player had a chance to learn that that is how our game works, right?
Right.
However, if you're just adding content to a game that is normally clearly communicating that, hey, this is a point of no return, or this is a path that is going to cut off all the other stuff, then once you try to do something more open, it is going to confuse the player. So be cohesive, I guess. And
Right. Yeah, that's something I've noticed recently, like an industry trend is like, say like games like Horizon, for example, like the character will kind of narrate to herself to kind of indicate, or even like God of War, for example, is another good example where like the characters will be like speaking to themselves in a way of like communicating with the player, but like sometimes that can kind of distract, or like, you know, say there's a puzzle, right? That was a complaint I heard frequently aired about God of War, where Atreus was kind of telling you how to do everything, yeah, before you even had a chance to do so. Yeah. So it's like that sort of stuff. Again, like you had mentioned as well, there's sometimes will be a trigger that comes up like, hey, this is a point of no return. Make sure you wrap up anything before you continue past this point. I was just interesting to hear like your perspective on that. But I thank you very much for your time and appreciate answering the question.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Horm. No worry, Mustafa, you will make it. I got a question from Mustafa if he will be able to ask.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can stay like past 5, it's fine. So, you know, if you guys have any questions, just throw them at me.
Horm.
Yes, so I have a question about side quests. So there is quite a lot of filler quests in RPGs to, you know, have enough content for the player. And they're sometimes like boring and stuff. So how do you find the balance between creating compelling enough side quests, which are not just fetch and escort quests, but also not too resource consuming for designers and programmers and artists?
Yeah, so for me, if you can define your quest as a boring filler, then you should stop working on it and like go back to the drawing board and find something more interesting, basically. I am fully against quests that are just there to consume your player's time, because you know, not everyone has the time to play games like 24/7. We are the lucky people who probably play a lot more than the baseline for our product consumers is. So yeah, I would say don't waste people's time. If you are creating something that just fills in the game, then maybe it's not necessary at all, and maybe your game is perfectly fine without side quests. However, like I love side quests. Let's make it clear, but as long as they are interesting, let's say. If they are boring, then yeah, don't work on that.
Or did it answer your question? Oh, you're muted.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yes, can you? Oh yeah. But I was also asking about like creating quests that would not consume too much resources from everyone working on it, but they would still be interesting. So like, if you would not have much resources for creating a quest, so how would you approach that?
Oh, that's a great question, because I am always struggling with the budget. So that's great. Yeah, there is a lot of content actually in Cyberpunk that was fully created by quest designers alone, with no involvement from other teams. I don't know if you have had a chance to play it, but for instance, I created a concert in Night City where you can listen to a DJ set created by Idris Elba, because we had that and we had no content built around that, and I felt like, wow, the guy like has put something together for us, and we are not even going to have anything narrative built around that. So yeah, I reused some dialogue lines from different parts of the quest. Yeah, it's the concert is themed around like space, let's say, and we have these tubes in Afterlife where we have dancers that are submerged in water. So, you know, they look like, well, they're I guess kind of flying in water, right? So yeah, I took those tubes, I removed the water, I added some VFX to make it look like it's this platform with no gravity. My point is, yeah, if you don't have any budget, I'd say resourcefulness comes in, and if you have enough passion in your heart, it's going to be a fun experience for your player.
Okay, that's a really great answer. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm sorry, but I have a feeling that Mustafa is constantly dropping to the last spot in our queue. Can we allow him to ask his question right now? Mustafa? Hello.
You're muted. Still muted, at least for me.
Okay.
Hey.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Hey, greetings. So I'm gonna try to make it as short.
You know, you're cutting off, and
Yeah,
I don't
probably
know.
that was the reason why Mustafa was...
Yeah. Perhaps write in the chat.
Yeah, Mustafa, please write in the chat and we will ask it out loud. And in the meantime, we ask...
But as I can and as concise as I...
Umair, can you ask the question?
Hey.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey.
Is everybody...
You are cutting off for me completely.
I will ask in the chat.
Yes. Thank you.
Then, Loki, please ask your question out loud, and while guys are writing. Loki?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
Hello, and thank you for valuable presentation. We've got like an extremely valuable knowledge from this webinar. I have one question which is kind of general, but what are the major pitfalls that we can avoid in quest designing? Like before Horn asked how about like when someone design a quest that includes following an NPC or just collecting items, it feels kind of boring. Something like that, how can we avoid it while designing our quests?
Yeah, okay. So I feel like it's very important to like keep your mind on the reason why you are creating the quest in the first place. If you are creating a quest because you need the player to go from one NPC to the other, and it sounds boring to you, then you're kind of locking yourself into failure from the get-go, right? Because you have picked the wrong reason to build the quest. I'd say, yeah, if let's say that you're creating a quest that is part of the main storyline of the game, right? So you are kind of required to do certain things and you didn't have a chance to establish them yourself, right? Because that's what the whole game needs from you. You have to send the player on an emotional journey through like a specific aspect of the main storyline. If you can find something inspiring in that, then it's great. If you cannot, then you need to find something else that is going to inspire you in creating the quest. So yeah, to sum up, I'd say if your only reason is to create this fetch type of quest, then you have a bad reason to create a quest in the first place. But you asked about the biggest pitfalls in the quest design process, and I would add to that losing focus from that important key aspect of your design. So because you can start adding stuff to your first intended experience because I don't know, you saw something cool in other people's quests, you played the game and you got inspired and you're trying to fit all the cool ideas into one design. That's a huge risk, at least for me. I'm always on the lookout for inspiration, so I am tempted to include all new ideas into the same thing because that's what I'm currently working on. So for me, it is helpful to kind of keep like a backlog of ideas in a way, to just keep myself from adding to the thing that I'm currently working on. And then I can get back to the things that inspired me when I'm looking for ideas for new content.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mustafa has his microphone fixed, so let's hear out his question, and then Umair, I will read yours out loud. Mustafa, you are muted. Yeah.
Okay, am I audible now? Can you listen to me?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to thank the Futuregames management for conducting such a great session, because you won't believe me, but from a perspective of a beginner like me, I have really seen that I am quite on the block 1, and people around me or far from me are reaching the block 97 and even the level 100. So I need to learn a lot. And as Maria I would honor you that you have given us your valuable time and that you are explaining to these students and plus me. But my question, but I will try my best to make it concise and precise, is that I'm far away from that quest and stuff that you are discussing. It's beyond my understanding, because I'm a person who belongs from an environment where we only have seen cartoons and we are only familiar with the movies that we have seen in 3D that are generally broadcasted on a global scale. So whenever it's published on the internet, that's how we see. So all the knowledge I have is from playing arcades and the local supermarkets that I used to go when I was in school time, the 1980s. You can judge my knowledge from playing Tekken 3, King of Fighters, and Street Fighters. So nowadays, you can say that the levels have gone higher. People play Call of Duty, people play Horizon, people play Forza, people have played God of War, and these genres have basically distinguished that whole gaming experience to another level. So now my question is that a person like me who is ambitious, who has all that what you need to be a gamer, but to design a game, it's a whole new level. So how can a person make his portfolio that much attractive that whenever you go for an institution or a place where they teach you that stuff, how to make a game? So what should be your portfolio like making a resume or making a CV? So there are key points. So what is the key point for a beginner or a novice person like me who doesn't know how to express himself, the key tips, so that if I need to make something, because I don't even know about Unreal or Unity. Just a little while ago, I was known to this fact that there are these two engines on which you make games. So now this is a jitter of information that I got, a piece, breadcrumb. So these are things that we don't know, and people from third world country, they try it very hard. They find it very hard to come in this field of game designers. So I rest my question, and I hope that I have made possibilities for you to answer them, so that other people like me who can't even answer, or they're shy that if we would be like outcast to ask this question, but I have that confidence and then that ambition that I am not lower to anyone, but yes, I am not that much knowledgeable in this field. So I want knowledge.
I'm sorry, but I think it's good to give space to Maria to answer your question.
Yes, sorry, please, sorry. My apologies.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. I feel like you are actually in just the right place for that, right? Because you are in Futuregames. That is for sure like the best thing you can do in terms of improving your chances of building a career in game dev. So I get that it can feel daunting when you have no knowledge. That's how I came into game dev with like completely zero knowledge of how games are actually created. Yeah. And that's the case for so many people in our field. I'd say like try to answer, find an answer in your heart or in your head. What is the reason for you to join game dev? What's the thing that drives you towards this medium? And obviously it's not going to be because I know Unreal, right? Or because I know Unity. It's going to be something else. And as long as you can vocalize it to your prospective employer, I feel like it should. That's what we are looking for, right? We are looking for people who have this passion in their hearts to create games. And
but basically, I have an ideology.
Mustafa and Maria, I'm sorry, but if I may interrupt you both, and here, surprisingly for me, I may have an answer to Mustafa's question, because I get a lot of questions from people who don't have experience and want to enter game designer course. And what we ask them to do is to create a screenplay of the game based on their own idea or a breakdown of an existing game, showing that you have a structure, understanding how games work. It's really a lot. If you can create, the levels of
Mr. Matisi, I would like to say that people like me who are from third world countries, basically the problem for us is that even if we have an idea in our mind, we don't have the resources to project that idea physically.
Mustafa, I don't think you understood what I was saying. You just need a pen and a paper to write down the ideas for the game. And if we, for example, see the structure and we see that you have good understanding of the game structure, we don't need to see the finalized product. We need to see that you understand how games work. So at least for us in the recruitment process for Futuregames, it's very often enough to see.
So let me get a clear with what you say, is that you need a paraphrase or a comprehension of what my game would be like a written explanation.
A screenplay.
Is that what you want?
I need to see faces and actors. I need to see the paper with the ideas and structure and levels described and characters and all the logic of the game. Guys, I'm sorry, we have to go to another person because there.
Okay, fine.
I hope Mustafa.
But how to contact you people? Like, I want to contact you guys again, but in a more sophisticated way.
Yeah, I gave an email address in the chat, and there are links to our social media. So just follow us. It's really easy, and we are responding.
Because I have already made my written description of the game I would like to play. I would like to create it. So I have that thing with me.
Super. I will give you again email address in the chat. And
obviously.
Let's move further to yes. I was about to read Umair's question. Let's find it in the chat. There's a lot of things happening there. My question is this possible for anyone to share new ideas for new IPs despite their job designation, like creative freedom? This is Umair's question.
And the answer is yes. Yes, of course. There is no reason why an idea coming from, let's say, a programmer or an artist that is relevant to the field of the narrative wouldn't be considered. Absolutely. You just have to bear in mind, well, I'd say I've had quite a bit of experience in kind of stepping out of my area into other areas. The thing you have to bear in mind is that, like, for instance, your idea or your content that you would actually create for a different discipline, it has to go through the same review process as it would otherwise. Meaning, if you have, like here you mention IPs, but let's say you have an idea for a quest, but you're not a quest designer, you have to go through the lead quest designer with your stuff, and it as long as your suggestions are of certain quality, then there is no reason why they wouldn't be considered.
Well, thank you. I think we are about to wrap up, but maybe just a quick question from Vincent Velarde. Vincent,
I mean, guys, I am not like pressed for time, so if
are you not? Okay,
no,
so then we have 2 more questions in the queue after Vincent, so let's try to answer them as well.
Absolutely.
Hi, you guys hear me all right?
Hey, yes.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I like to ask people this, and I'll give an example first. I think this is somewhat controversial for RPGs and like interactive storytelling, but one way I like to kind of set up meaningful choices for the players, I actually like to stress them out. And so timed dialogues are definitely one of my favorite things to include. You know, not every choice needs that or should have that, but I was curious how do you like to set up a meaningful choice for the player?
In so many different ways. So yeah, for sure, I also like a timed choice where it fits, and sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, I'd say if you can come up with different ways of communicating that, hey, this is an important point, then like all the better for you, right? I don't like repetitiveness in terms of those means of communication. So if I will always have the same, I don't know, window popping up and saying, this is an important decision, I will feel like it's artificial. However, yeah, well, you know, sometimes it can even come straight from even just the voiceover actor's delivery of the lines. Like the gravity of the situation can come from the dialogue and from voiceover delivery, and we definitely aimed at that with our writers. You know, I think it's cool to find those means of communication with different disciplines. So, for instance, as I said, we have the gravity of the dialogue coming from our writers or our localization experts, because we also do, you know, English from Polish internally, from actors in terms of voiceover delivery. But then we have these signals coming from the cinematic experience, right? So here I would approach my cinematic designer and I would ask them, hey, how can we stage this moment so that it's clear that it is important, that it is a key moment in our story. Then if I'm trying to figure something out with my gameplay designer, perhaps we will find a moment in the combat scenario that clearly it was building up to something significant to the story. Like, so if you feel like there is a huge concentration of content around that point in the storyline, then you will know it is important. So yeah, I'd say talk to all the other people and try to find how their discipline can be used to your advantage.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Rian, you may. Hello. Rian?
You are muted if you're speaking.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for the talk and the Zoom call and setting this all up. My question to you is, I'm trying to become a producer within AAA development. How does a quest designer and a producer work hand in hand towards milestones and the overall objective in the pipeline?
Yeah, so that depends on the producer, actually, and the quest designer, probably. But yeah, I would say the producers that I appreciate the most are the ones that are very heavily involved in at least understanding what different disciplines are contributing to the end product. You know, I find it very helpful if I don't have to explain to the producer that, for instance, I don't know, to create a car, we need that guy and that guy from that team, etc. If they already know that, that is hugely helpful. because yeah, if obviously there are certain things that I can do myself, but that is also due to the fact that I am actually personally interested in what other teams are working on. But in case of other quest designers, let's say a default quest designer who isn't like following all the events in the rest of our production, the producer would be kind of like a frontman, let's say, for us to communicate with other content teams or other like just making sure that the things that we are working on are somehow cohesive with the process itself of the rest of the team, of the rest of the well, team, yeah, actually the company. So not necessarily like I am obviously like supposed to keep track of the work of narrative teams, and the gameplay designer dedicated to our content would be following all the stuff that's going on in gameplay, but the producer makes sure that we are following all the right steps of the process itself. If it clears it up, I'm not sure. If you
Yeah,
have
it
like,
does.
follow-up questions, I can answer them, because I'm not sure if I covered what you were wondering about.
Yeah, just one follow-up question, because it's more of a general inquiry. So when working with the producer, do you usually work, do you have like weekly meetings with them? I know a team is usually consistent of multiple people, and there's usually one producer, maybe two. When kind of working on the backlog or things, do you usually have like maybe like a quick meeting in the mornings, or like weekly meetings, or just in the sprints?
So yeah, that depends on the stage of the product. Like usually, I'd say a weekly meeting to think about what everyone is working on, and as you said, backlog maintenance. That usually happens at the end of the sprint or milestone, depending on how much we are working through within sprints, because it differs, depending on the stage of the production. But yeah, weekly meetings, but daily communication, like on chat, just to make sure that we are on the same page about everything. So
Okay,
I'd say
yeah,
it's a very close cooperation.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, we have a female voice here, Julia Ledniowska. Probably it's Julia, not Julia, judging by the surname. Please unmute yourself.
If you're speaking, you're...
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I have an alert that I can't unmute myself, so it's okay now. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes. Hello.
Okay, good. Hey, thank you for the whole webinar. It was really interesting to hear a female voice in the industry. My question is about making a documentation, because I have worked in 3 projects and we had a, let's say, slight problem with deciding where we want to start the game. If we want to start building it by the programming with blocks and everything, first putting mechanics and then writing the story and everything around it, or is it better to start with the story and then build the whole programming around it?
Well, I'd say that depends on what's your main driving idea. if you have an idea for a great game mechanic, that's the thing you're excited about, then yeah, establish that first, not even in terms of actual implementation, but just like settle on a direction for your gameplay feature, let's say, and then let that inspire your story, right? However, if you are excited about telling a specific story, I would say first write the story, at least in some draft form, because that will answer a lot of questions about the actual gameplay design, right? If you know that you are going to tell a very specific like story, I don't know, even if you wanted to create a story about a loner, you don't have to invest in sorting out a gameplay mechanic for interaction with people, right? Because you only let's imagine that you are excited about telling a story about someone who only like self-reflects and doesn't interact with other people. So yeah, I'd say the order of events should depend on the driving force and the main idea that inspires you to create the product.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I had a lot of voices, let's call it that, that were saying different approaches for the starting of production. And it was confusing because it depends on what people want to express in the game and what is more comfortable for them and not what other people say, right?
Yeah, well, I feel like as long as you can find your inspiration in something, then you are one of the lucky people who get that, and you should follow that.
Okay, thank you very much for answering.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Thank you, Maria. And I have a question to Maria. Last one question from Usman. And
absolutely.
We will be wrapping up. So, Usman, here we go.
You are muted if you're speaking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hi.
Thank you, Maria, for the awesome presentation. I really enjoyed my time here with you.
Thank you.
I sent my questions in the chat because I didn't know how to wave my hand, but again, I repeat. It was really amazing to hear a story of someone who just started as a Q&A and then progressed into proper like a quest designer, which can say as a part of the creative team more than just testing the results, right? So I would just would be interested to hear from you maybe some part of little personal story, how exactly which skills helped you to promote into that position, and maybe this will also will help other people as well, you know, to find their own way. And the second question quickly is that it's well known that CD Projekt is well known for the very strong quest lines, which is part of your job as well, as we understand. So what do you think, in your opinion, helps CD Projekt to actually make this difference in the market and to gain that reputation? Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. Okay, so the second question first, if you wouldn't mind. I feel like you know, we create a lot of drafts, and we end up publishing only the select few. And there is this culture in our company of really supporting each other's growth in our disciplines. In quest design and in narrative in general, I feel like we take a lot of like we invest a lot of energy internally in kind of sharing our knowledge and our best practices between all the other designers. So we are teaching each other, we are inspiring each other, and we iterate a lot, basically. I feel like that's a very important aspect of our of finding our advantage in the field. I'm not sure why everyone isn't doing it, I guess, but yeah. Moving on to your first question, I would like to just clarify, because you said that I moved from QA to a creative area. Our QA is very much part of the creative process in CD PREAR. I wouldn't like cut them out of it because they are definitely very important. As I said, we have our narrative QA. They are crucial in creating our content from the very first steps of it. But my personal journey into quest design was, I think, mostly, well, I think I knew that I was interested in that from the very beginning in CDPR. I actually joined our company kind of like just on a whim. I wanted to have an adventure, and yeah, I showed up, and I don't know if I was lucky. You know, we have obviously tests that we go through in recruitment, whether it is external or internal. So I went through the QA test, I went through the quest designer test eventually. When I was filling out the QA test, I remember being completely lost because, again, there were questions, you know, about the process of testing, about the process of creating the game. There were some test cases, and obviously I had no experience, so I didn't know what I was talking about like at all, and I didn't know the terminology. So I felt very insecure back then. However, when I got back to it years later, because one of my friends was involved, well, eventually we became friends here in the company, but she shared with me my old test, and I was shocked by the fact that you know, it made complete sense. I mean, you know, the answers were phrased without our game dev terminology. However, I get why this person would become a QA. Still, when I was moving to quest design, obviously I had experience in our company. I'd say the thing that progressed me the most in my development was just curiosity. I made it a point in my everyday work to read up on the way that certain things were addressed by quest designers. I reached out to people when they fixed the bugs I was logging or addressed some feedbacks, and I asked, hey, could you tell me more about that? Why did you do it this way? So yeah, in a way, communication for sure was also very, very helpful in growing into the shoes of a quest designer.
Maria,
I don't know if it answers your question. Hopefully.
I think Marco is just lost his speech hearing the answer. Guys, we will be wrapping up. Thank you, Maria. Radek, are you somewhere there, still with us?
Yes, absolutely, I am.
Cool. Guys, thank you very much. It was very informative, and I regret I couldn't focus on Maria's responses as I was dealing here with the chat, you know, and participants. So I think I will rewatch this webinar. So, but stay tuned. This is our 12th webinar with guests from CDPR, and I think next will come. Just at the beginning of August, we plan to have a webinar on game production with game producer from CDPR. Maria, thank you again for joining us and stretching the time about almost half an hour. Thank you, Radek, for sharing your stuff. And guys, see you soon. Stay tuned. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys, and thank you very much. It was a pleasure to well experience this with you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.